Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, finally, I'm going to start this Led Zeppelin series that I've been promising for more than a month now. I've had it in the works for about 3 months, but it's been promised to come out the last 3 or 4 weeks, and time and place and circumstances kept it off the board. But we're going to start tonight. So this is my 5 favorite Led Zeppelin albums. And I've done some categories here to make it a little bit interesting. So we're going to do basically answer 5 questions for each of the 5 episodes we're going to be doing, which of course all feature Led Zeppelin. So the first album, the album we're going to do tonight, is this one, Led Zeppelin 4. Now, this is not in any particular ranking category. Like, this is not my 5th favorite Led Zeppelin album. What I did is I took all the albums, I rolled the dice, and whoever got the highest number went first. And that turns out to be Led Zeppelin 4. So Led Zeppelin 4, a legendary album, obviously, considered to be one of the great rock albums of all time, one of the best-selling albums of all time, one of the most beloved albums by one of the most beloved bands. In my opinion, they're the greatest band of all time. So in that way, I stand with Jack Black. But they're not my favorite band, but they definitely are one of those bands that when I was growing up, they were, by all accounts, by just about everybody, the greatest rock band out there. I mean, there were some challengers, obviously, but for that period of time in my teen years and before that, so from the time I started listening to rock music in 1975 when I discovered Kiss until I really exploded out there on the music scene, this band was, to me, in my way of thinking, the best band out there. So I decided, since I did a Beatles one, and they're the other band that everybody says is the best of all time, and I'm not going to argue with people. Everybody has their own opinions, and of course times have changed. Some bands are seen in different lights than they used to be seen, but for my money, these guys are the best of all time. So the first episode will be on Led Zeppelin 4. So the categories I've chosen, which I will use on all 5 of these albums for each of the 5 episodes, are my favorite song, best vocal part on the album, my favorite guitar solo on the album, my favorite bass part, not necessarily a bass solo or anything like that, but the part that the bass, I think, is my favorite part for that particular song. And the best drum fill of all the drum fills, and Zeppelin has a horde of those as well. And then I'll give you a few honorable mentions of other parts of different songs that I think definitely rate high in there. So I'm just going to first clean up my glasses while I'm talking, because they're getting a little bit foggy. And I'm just really ecstatic to get this series underway. I said it would come out Wednesday. I'm going to try to keep my word. I'm hoping to have it by Wednesday at 8 o'clock, Wednesday morning. So tomorrow morning. I'm doing these before I go to bed. And I've been highly fortunate. I think the lighting in here is pretty good. I still have to get the white light, but I think the yellow lighting's not too bad. We're getting a little tiny bit of haze on the edges, but not too much. So we're going to start this now. So this album has 8 tracks on it. And I believe it was released in 71. Yes, 71. Great album. Like I said, all those things about it are true. So my favorite song, we're going to start with that. My favorite song on this album is probably When the Levee Breaks. And that wasn't always the case. There was different periods of time because this album for me has been around for over 40 years. I've been listening to it for over 40 years. At one point, it was rock and roll early on, and then Black Dog kind of took over for a while, and then Misty Mountain Hop. So the two, Misty Mountain Hop and Black Dog, for a long period of time were fighting it out all the time because they're the two kind of heavy paced songs. People will say, well, Stairway to Heaven is on this album. How can it not be number one? It gets way too much airplay. It's really well past what we might consider burnout. And it's a great song, don't get me wrong, but it's just not my personal favorite. So my personal favorite now is probably When the Levee Breaks. I really like the heavy melodic sound of this song. And I think Robert Plant's vocals on this are really good and clear. The bass and the drums, the drums on this track are heavy, but atypical of John Bonham's sound. I think it's just a fantastic track with just all the elements that I like. Very bluesy, but also got that kind of mystical feel to it as well. So that's my favorite track. Best vocal part, I think has to go to Stairway to Heaven, just because it's so famous, so well known. He absolutely pours himself into this song, and he gets that really kind of slow build up with his emotions in the song until you get to the real heavy part, which he then dominates as well. So I think that is an absolutely killer track for the vocals, for the best vocal part on the album. And there's lots of vocal parts on this album that are really good, but that's, I think, the number one. Favorite guitar solo comes from my favorite song, When the Levee Breaks. That slow melodic slide guitar part that he kind of does towards the end of the song is so catchy, so memorable, so heavy. It's got all the elements that make that song strong. So that's my favorite guitar solo on the album. My favorite bass part comes in as part of no, I forgot to write what song it was on. Four Sticks. I did write it. It's just at the end there. I knew it was on the Four Sticks anyways, but I was just trying to remember if what I wrote that was right. It's got this heavy bass part, which in concert with the guitar and the drums, just really makes this a heavy melodic song. Just so catchy. I think that this bass player, John Paul Jones, is very underrated. And I mean, he's well liked and everything, but he's kind of like the Alex Lifeson of Led Zeppelin. He's as good as everybody else in the band, but he just doesn't quite get the same credit, and he deserves it. I think he's an excellent bass player. Best heavy drum fill on this, or best drum fill on this, is the heavy drum fill part in Misty Mountain Hop towards the end. Really catchy. I love it. I think it's probably my favorite drum fill, one of my favorite drum fills that John Bonham does. He's one of the heaviest drummers out there as well. So some of the honorable mentions on this album include the drum opening on Rock and Roll, pretty heavy as well. The drum part on Stairway to Heaven when it turns to the heavy part. I like that a lot too. The heavy repetitive drum fills on the Four Sticks, which goes on throughout the entire track. I like the vocals on Going to California. I think they're catchy. This is a song that I always didn't care much for when I was younger, but it's grown on me over time. And then some more heavy drum openings on When the Levee Breaks, which I think are just absolutely killer. So overall, I think this is, many people consider this to be Zeppelin's magnus opus, maybe their best album. It's not necessarily my favorite. In fact, I know it's not my favorite, but it's got, from top to bottom, really nothing weak in here. Lots of interesting stuff. Lots of really catchy drum parts, just dominated by drums in a lot of ways. And the guitar parts, while not as dominant as the drum parts, are sprinkled throughout the album in varying degrees of heaviness and lightness. So really, really quite good. And I think, if I'm honest, I think Robert Plant's vocals are probably the best on this album of any of the albums that they have. And John Paul Jones, some great bass on this. There's no real kind of singled out soloing type of stuff by him, but definitely has adding that heaviness to the album. So there you go. So my first episode, a little bit longer than most of the rest, will be around 6 or 7 minutes, but because we're starting out, I hope you enjoyed this episode of my favorite 5 Led Zeppelin albums, part 1. And we will be back. Well, this will come out tomorrow. We will be back with part 2 on Thursday, featuring Led Zeppelin's In Through the Outdoor. That will be the album we will feature on the second episode. I hope you like this. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe. If you want to add your favorite parts or your favorite songs or talk about the album, you can do that in the comments section. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. And we will see you for episode 2 on Thursday. Take care and goodbye.